Hey guys! Today I wanted to talk about some of the similarities and differences between ABA and music therapy. ABA, as many of you probably already know, stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. And ABA is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics as the primary approach for helping children with autism. There's a lot of controversy and a lot of mixed opinions surrounding ABA. And for that reason, I wanted to give my professional opinion in hopes that it would help parents to make an educated decision. It's important to remember that no one approach is right for every child with autism. There are good and bad therapists in every discipline. So it's very, very important to do your research and explore all of your options before making a decision about what's right for your child. So I'll start out with a little disclaimer that I am a board-certified music therapist. I'm not an ABA professional, but I wanted to start with talking about some of the core facets of ABA. The underlying goal of most ABA programs is to analyze the relationship between a behavior and its environmental cause through measurable data, and then to replace those behaviors with more acceptable or meaningful behaviors. This typically begins with a ABC analysis, which is going to be detailed notes about the antecedent behavior and consequence of each behavior. Let's give a quick example. Let's say you and your child are preparing to leave the house and you ask them to put on their shoes. The child laughs and throws their shoes across the room. You then run over and grab the shoes and help your child put them on, and you guys get out the door. In this situation, the antecedent is the directive that was given. You asked your child to put on their shoes. The behavior is that they laughed and threw their shoes. And then the consequence was that you put on their shoes. After each of these analyses, the therapist will try to determine the possible functions of the behaviors. In this situation, the function was avoidance. The child successfully avoided the work of putting on their shoes. The core idea here is that the child has learned that they can avoid the task by exhibiting the behavior. So in the future, the child is likely to try the same behavior or an even stronger behavior in order to get the same results. ABA is typically performed by a BCBA, a board-certified behavior analyst, and registered behavior technicians that work under the supervision of the BCBA. Typically, once the BCBA has started to determine the functions of the behavior, they will work to design a program based around behavioral principles that will target specific and measurable goals. ABA is also really well known for keeping data to track progress. There's no one way to perform ABA, but these are some of the core ideas. Similarly, there's no one way to perform music therapy. And this is why it can be so difficult for parents and other professionals to imagine what music therapy is going to look like. Music therapy is typically an adjunct to other therapies, and while music therapy can easily fit within the framework of an ABA approach, it's not particularly common. Music therapy is performed by a board-certified music therapist. The underlying goal of music therapy is to facilitate the learning of specific measurable goals through carefully designed music interventions. A board-certified music therapist is trained to design and adapt music interventions based on their effects on the brain. The process typically begins with an assessment of need, which goes over typical development as well as daily function. Next, the music therapist will develop a treatment plan outlining specific measurable goals, as well as evidence-based music interventions to be used and therapeutic rationale. Last, music therapists also keep data in order to track progress. While music therapy does nurture a love of music and learning, it doesn't necessarily aim to teach kids musical skills. Rather, within the intervention of music therapy, children might sing, dance, play instruments, and more, all to address functional goals. There's a strong focus on building rapport with a client before treatment is effective, and also on providing age-appropriate interventions regardless of developmental level. This means that music therapy for young children will be play-based and will develop and change as the children get older. Music therapy relies on sculpting the elements of music and their effects on the brain in order to effect change. Music therapy is also highly regarded as a fun and therefore motivating approach. So now that we've gone over some of the basics of ABA in music therapy, I want to talk about some of the similarities and differences. I'm going to start with the similarities because I feel like those are frequently overlooked. Both interventions are performed by a credentialed professional, which means someone that went to school to be trained in this field and was also board certified, saying that they were ready to be in the field. This also ensures that this is someone who's going to keep up on continuing education and best practices in the field. ABA and music therapy also both set specific measurable goals and keep data to track progress. Both interventions utilize a structured approach to antecedents and reinforcements. In music therapy, the structure is typically built into the music. Last, both interventions utilize research-supported behavioral principles. This means task analysis, chaining, prompting, fading, reinforcement, and generalization. So now that we've talked about some of the similarities, let's talk about some of the differences between ABA and music therapy. ABA is typically seen as a full program, whereas music therapy is typically an adjunct to other therapies. ABA has a strong focus on measurable domains, while music therapy has a focus on the whole child. On that same note, music therapy has just a more multifaceted approach to behavior, with a higher focus on a child's emotional development and self-regulation. Another difference between ABA and music therapy is the music. Research suggests that children with autism spectrum disorders show a preference for musical stimuli and find it very motivating, which means that music therapy can motivate change on a more neurological level. Some, not all, ABA programs can be very rigid and rely on running a large number of trials in order to teach a skill. This can lead to a child becoming bored or frustrated throughout the course of therapy, and research is beginning to suggest that these children are not able to generalize the skills outside of that setting. Music therapy attempts to take a more naturalistic approach and aims to increase a child's flexibility by adapting the music to facilitate their success. It's important to remember there are many potential similarities and differences between any given ABA and music therapy program. No two programs are alike. I wanted to end this video with giving a little bit of my own perspective. And again, this is coming from someone who is a music therapist, but I also very much respect the principles of behaviorism and their ability to affect change. I also have to recognize that ABA has an incredibly strong research base which has informed a lot of what music therapists do. It sets a dangerous precedent to oversimplify a child's behavior because the child is exhibiting that behavior for a reason. The reason is likely not to drive us crazy and is more likely to communicate something that the child has not yet learned to cope with on their own. As therapists, I believe we do children a disservice if we focus only on replacing a behavior and not on helping the child learn how to cope with that behavior's underlying cause. So to go back to our example from earlier, the function of the behavior was avoidance. We can replace that behavior all we want, but did we learn why the child was avoiding putting on their shoes? It's likely not just because they learned that they could, but also because of some underlying cause that makes that a motivating option. I hope you found this video informative, and I really love to open up a dialogue about these things, so feel free to leave any comments or questions down below, and I'd love to chat with you a little more. I hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you all next time. Bye!